Hey, so I'm Jerry Holland, the owner and loan officer at New Point Lending. I want to talk a little bit about my very first VA home loan. And there's a lot of people that kind of fall in this situation. Inadvertently, they may not realize it, but this guy, he worked for the US Postal Service for 30 years. He served in the military for things like 2 to 4 years back in the 70s. And he raised his family during those 30 years that he worked for the Postal Service in apartment buildings. His little girl was 26 at the time when I met him, and she had a fiance and a 3-year-old daughter. And she didn't want to raise her kids in an apartment complex. Basically, she wanted to sell down roots. And so the dad was like, well, I do have these VA benefits, but we don't know how to use them. He never really looked into it because he was content where he was. And that's when I got the phone call. It was like my very first VA loan. I get a phone call on this, and I pull the guy's credit, and it turns out he doesn't really have credit. And as I'm getting talked to him, you hear about people with like mattress money and stuff, right? And he fit this bill to a T. He had quite literally no bank accounts, no credit cards. He would get his paycheck from the post office, go down to the local grocery store, cash his check, buy the prepaid credit cards with that, and that's what they would use to pay their bills with. And then any money left over would go into his, like, I call it his mattress fund, right? Under his mattress or wherever they kept it in their house. And once you're getting a home loan, we can't evaluate people that do this. And so we kind of had to coach him on how to build up himself so he becomes a good credit risk, right? Because that's what home loans are all about. So you had to open up bank accounts. We had to get secure credit cards to start building that credit out. And then we had to coach him on, try and keep the credit cards utilization below 10%. So that's where you get the optimum effect. Running through that over time, and it took a little bit of time, and we had to do some rapid rescores. These are credit terminologies where we work with the credit bureaus to really shape up his credit and get him in a good position so that he would be able to use his home loan. He was able to use his home loan. He was able to get a home for himself and his family and his granddaughter. He lived in one section because you have to with a VA home loan. That has to be your primary home, right? So he lived in one section of the home, and his daughter, fiance, and granddaughter lived in the other section of the home. Now, the best part about this story is his 3-year-old granddaughter, she's going to have a yard and a community and friends to play with, right? She's going to go to the same school, and nothing's going to change in her life. But as you know, if you're living in apartment buildings, sometimes you move every 2, 3, 4, or 5 years, and it becomes unstable for your families, for your kids. And so this is something that a community, a home can change for you. So if you have any questions, contact me, text me, email me, call me, right? We can answer those questions and start giving you the possibilities. Because for this veteran, he never thought he could own a home until he asked the question.